Okay, second take with my new mic, and I figured out why the mic on my webcam wasn't working before, and I just thought, you know what? I already got the new mic. I'm just gonna go with the new mic, and plus it looks kind of cool, just kind of sitting there. It looks like I'm on a late night show or something. So, um, Bill 21, I think it's telling that a lot of the federal leaders in this election cycle aren't really going for the whole Bill 21 bait. I think they're letting the courts in Quebec decide, and I think that's a very democratic thing to do. There's been some people coming across as victims of the bill because they spent all this time going to school and they can't find work because of the refusal by the would-be employers based on Bill 21. They can't wear the hijab in a classroom. And two examples kind of stuck out to me through this whole Bill 21 thing since June. One teacher said that what she would respectfully do is if a student asked her about wearing the hijab in class, she would do the honorable thing and basically tell the student to come back uh, during hours that are not designated class time, and she would explain what the hijab is. And I wonder what kind of explanation would be given, to tell you the truth. But I mean, that is a very strange example. I mean, it looks like it's proselytizing, but because I mean, essentially, she's sitting in class, so a student thinks, wow, I find that hijab very curious. What is it? Well, I don't know. Why don't you come back after school and I'll tell you? And I'm sure she'll tell her a very favorable understanding of the hijab. Um, I mean, obviously, because it wouldn't make sense if she gave the student a non theological explanation of why she's wearing the hijab. She'll tell her why she's wearing it in a positive light. Like, that just, why would she want to diminish herself in front of a student? Like, she would. So, anyway, you ask me, that is kind of like advertising in the classroom. And I know that's probably the example of one individual, but I mean, I wouldn't doubt that that could be applied to many hijabis if they were wearing hijabs in the classroom. Like, it seems clearly like it's some kind of advertisement for Islam and specifically the hijab. And then the second example is a woman who said she felt singled out, that she couldn't not maintain but couldn't get employment in Quebec because of the hijab. And she said, well, the thing is, I would wear the hijab. I could take my hijab off in class as long as there's no adult males around. And I'm wondering who's singling out who and for what reason. Like, I mean, you could think more clearly about about the hijab and where it comes from, and it's what you're suggesting there is that there is a sexual dimension to it. There is a dimension where women get covered up because they are sexual bait for adult males. And I mean, what is that saying about adult males? And is there going to be a student that's going to say, how come you put your hijab on out of the classroom? I'm forgetting whose voice I'm doing, but the thing is, like, what, like, I mean, if the same student asks, like, what are they, what kind of explanation are these students who ask about it going to get after or during school hours? It seems really weird to me. Anyway, I guess my point is in giving those two examples is to say that in the larger context, hijabis are seen as hijabis, but for some reason they want to have this very invisible kind of understand, or they want us to have a very invisible understanding of what the hijab is. So we're not supposed to see anything or infer anything or think about anything. Um, but I mean, it's clearly a hijab. I mean, when a hijabi wears a hijab, it looks like a hijab. At least in my experience, when they walk down the street in a hijab, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be wearing a hijab down the street or whatever, but like, I mean, they should not. I think in the role of government and education, they should not be wearing a hijab. Like, that's my take on it. Like, I mean, you want the government to be seen as not supporting images or symbols that support kind of this misogynistic role of in Islam especially, but also in other religions. Like, I would say, like, a teacher wearing a crucifix shouldn't wear it in the classroom either. The only reason I always keep bringing up the hijab is because that's what Bill 21 is, apparently. Like, it keeps talking about hijabis, Muslim women. So that's the only reason I keep using it. I mean, if it was more emphasis on the crucifix, I would emphasize that as well. But the thing is, I'll give you a little secret. And maybe it's just my secret, but I'll give it to you anyway. I think most people who, non Muslims and ex Muslims who stay away from the Islamic debate, and yes, I said Islamic debate, I think most ex Muslims and atheists who think that Islam is not something to be talked about, that you leave that to the Muslims to talk about Muslimhood and Islam. That's where that discussion belongs, and it cannot be anywhere else. It's a very leftist way of talking. It's relativism basically. It's basically leftist feminist relativism, where certain humans are incapable of understanding other humans. So a white person cannot talk about issues related to race because they do not understand racialized people, and it is wrong. There's also a ban on cultural appropriation. So, writers, fiction writers or writers talking about fact, nonfiction, cannot talk about indigenous issues. They just can't because on a human level they are very different. On a very human level, very different. Humans cannot understand each other of different tribes, and it's a very, like I said, it's a very leftist and feminist way of going about things. But I would be more in your face. Like, for instance, I would kind of stare you in the face and tell you, if you do not wear a hijab, you know what? You, in your passivity, are already making a decision about the benefits and the what would be the opposite of benefits? The pros and cons of wearing a hijab. You've already made up your mind because you yourself aren't wearing one. And I'm assuming you're a woman, blah 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 blah. But I mean, you've already made that decision. And I'm assuming you're somewhat educated on the hijab, so you would know what it stands for. And anyway, I'm just saying, in your passivity, you've already made somewhat of a choice. And I feel that opinion that you have in your head that you haven't articulated yet belongs in the public sphere. I think that it has validity, and I think it means a lot. It probably even means a lot to some Muslim women who are kind of forced into wearing it. And the idea of coercion is very strange. Like, I mean, there might be a kid out there that had to wear it since she was the age of 9. So how much of a choice could that be by the time they get to an older age, right? Like, I mean, by then they're super comfy with it. So I mean, how much of a choice could it be? Could it be? And, like, you have familial pressures and pressures from people in your religious community, imams, etc., things like that. But I mean, so your voice is very important. Your voice could mean some kind of hope for somebody who doesn't want to wear it, but they're having to wear it because of their family and family pressure and the Islamic doctrine, and you name it, right? And I'll let you in on a secret. I can't remember if I told you that was a secret, but it's kind of a secret. But I'll let you in on my secret. I think that most people who are actively and regularly engaged with freedom of religion and freedom from religion in society, in Canadian society specifically speaking, they might argue and they might debate you on whether people should be allowed to wear the hijab in government services or on government jobs, etc., etc. You name it. They might argue with you. They might say yes, they should wear it. But I think the ultimate goal of all secularists is to have religion even completely removed from society. And I know there's lots of things that could, like, take the place of religion, like, oh, I don't know, cocaine or whatever. But, like, I'm thinking, I'm more with Camille Paglia, and I'm thinking that what could take the place of religion is art. And I think that would require just more literacy on everybody's part, including mine. Hey, I'm just trying out something here. I don't think do this big shit thing. But, like, I mean, I think it would take a lot of literacy, a lot of bringing everybody up to a certain level. I mean, art doesn't necessarily rely on ultra educated populaces or populations. You could start engaging with art from a well, basically from being from childhood. Like, I mean, you could start engaging with art from childhood, and it'll just build from there. We have a rich history of art, and it's not dogmatic. It used to be at some point, but I mean, contemporaneity, like the turn of the century, like starting with the Impressionists, maybe like art has always been seen as rebellious and multifaceted and just but still dealing with these human things like the like abstraction and wonder and awe and things like that. And we just all of us have better and better tools to do it with too. We have our smartphones, and maybe we just don't take it so maybe we take it more seriously, like art. God knows I should take art more seriously. I have a BFA, but I kind of dropped off the face of the earth for 10 years after my earning my BFA, and I never really uh, kept up with it or read about it, and I'm feeling like a longing to kind of reclaim my BFA, reclaim my degree, Um, but I still have my issues. I have my very deeply personal issues, my mental health, my daily schedule. Trying to. A lot of times it feels like I'm scrambling, But anyway, that's me. That's me. Anyway, so that's all I want to say. I think a lot of people who do actively pursue these things in terms of freedom of religion and freedom from religion, I think they would want to have the end of religion in society anyway. So I think that's the ultimate goal. And I'm all about incrementalism, so I'm not saying like have fascistic kind of bans on this and that. Um, but I don't know. You got to start somewhere. Anyway, that's all. Bye.